Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another RGDS podcast. I'm your host, Kingy, and joining me in this particular show is the one and only Ric. Well, Ric, it's been a little while, hasn't it?
It has been, mate. You've been busy recording Spectrum games, haven't you?
For our sins. And you know what? For all that effort, right? So two parts, round about 5+ hours each.
3 parts.
3 parts if you want about the painful re-recording of part 1. Yeah, that's right. And everyone praises Drisky's fart.
Oh yes,
on the episode,
he stole the show, didn't it? Stole the show.
He trouser trumpeted, and people are still speaking about it. Yeah, imagine that. We may as well just, you know what? Let's just start filling our pants. Right now, we'll just do a whole episode of farts. There we go, and that's all it's about, you know. Anyway, it's good to have you on board. So, obviously, it's been a little while since we've had a little chat. So, what have you been up to? Have you done anything good retro-wise at all?
Oh, mate, I've been. I see. This is the problem, right, Kingy? I like me philosophy and stuff, and I feel like it's when you're doing something and you beavering away at it, you shouldn't announce it, because it kind of gives you a dopamine hit and makes you feel like you've achieved something when you announce when you're doing something, and fuck it. I'm just gonna fucking announce anyway. It's not really an announcement, but basically, I was talking at the beginning of the year about doing games development. I've been talking about doing games for development for a while, but I've stumbled across this time a thing called SGDK, which is a Sega Genesis development kit.
Okay.
And it basically, what it does is it's an interface in, you can use like a Visual Code or whatever it's called, or some sort of text editor. Whatever programmers like to use, and it basically uses C, the old school C language, to interpret into assembly, I guess, is how it works. And it allows you to write Mega Drive games in this SDK, and it's there's quite a big explosion of Mega Drive development going on. I've been looking at a lot of projects people have been making with this development kit, and we have something like, say, the Scorpion engine, which Rock, I think his name is, who's been developing, and people seem to be getting on with that all right. I find it very cumbersome. I don't kind of get on with the interface. It's not very intuitive to me. It feels a little bit like I'd rather just learn how to do the coding and crack on that way, rather than have these widgets that I don't really understand what they do. I suppose it's all a preference thing, but basically, I found this guy called Pigsy's Game Development, it's called, his channel. And he's started putting some tutorials up last year, which I found for the SDK. And he's currently doing a Mega Drive demake of Symphony of the Night.
Oh, wow.
Which is looking quite nice. And he's basically, put some tutorials up. And I've just sort of gone through those, and I've basically I've decided to sort of try and do a remake of Ninja. Do you remember that game Ninja on the Atari I introduced you to?
Yeah, that's right.
The 16-bit versions were a bit gash. Well, there's only the Amiga and ST versions, but they were a bit sort of, rubbish. And I thought, why not try and have a crack at doing that? Because it's a very simple, flip screen beat 'em up, isn't it, really?
It's not complex, just a few hitboxes to...
That's right, yeah.
Target.
So currently I've got the Ninja on one screen, and I've got all his moves sort of cut out from the 16-bit versions. I've redrawn some frames.
Oh, cool! Right.
Bits and pieces like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to redraw the sprite. I'm just using it as placeholder graphics for now because I do want a bit more of a stylistic looking thing. But I've kind of just got to the point where the ninja's moves work like they do on the old one button joystick. But I do kind of want to plan to make it a bit more of a fluid 16-bit experience where instead of, pressing up, forward and a button to do a flying kick, you press a jump button to do any range of like punches or kicks. With,
modern concessions into it.
Yeah, 16-bit it properly, if you get what I mean. Like instead of IK plus in it, because it's a Mega Drive, it's got 3 buttons or 6 if you want to use a 6.
Yeah.
And I'm currently at the position now where I'm just dabbling with not Devil Mask. What's the other one? Furnace, which is a chiptune tracker. Which obviously has the Mega Drive on there, and I've got to the point where I've been messing around with voices and some other bits and pieces, and then I got to the point where I was trying to get some sort of Japanese sounding, ethnic Japanese sounding instrument samples going, and for some reason it just won't play the samples. So I don't know. I've followed all the instructions and I've just got stuck there. Right. So basically I've got to the point where I've got a character moving about on the screen. I've got some scrolling clouds and I've got a little bit of music playing. So I've only been doing it sort of, I don't know, sort of like 2 or 3 weeks.
That's pretty decent for that short length of time, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have had a clue if it wasn't for Pigsy's game dev tutorials, whatever his channel is called. But it's got me thinking maybe I should just try and learn how to do C. Then it will give me an idea a bit more about the syntax for writing and maybe working code out that I can't find examples for and stuff. Because it's quite difficult. Yeah. To understand, because basically with a Mega Drive, you've got to understand how the VDP works, and you've got to know how to clear it and all that crap to load. That's why I haven't got another screen going yet, because I've got no idea how to clear the VDP and then reload the next screen sprites and pattern tiles in. But I've got to the point where I've learned how the palettes work, and I know that I can sort of take 2 layers, say, for the background, and I can split them up and move. Get them to use colours from different palettes and stuff like that, so you make the game look a bit nicer. But I think I don't know what it is. I always struggle seeing a project through, and like I said when I was trying to do that Open Beats of Rage game, I seem to just sort of tunnel in and burn myself out before I get anywhere. And this time I'm just sort of I've said to myself, well, as long as I do like an hour a day. Then just keep going. Just don't see it as like I need to finish this yesterday. No. I'm just going to keep it on the back burner. Basically,
set achievable targets. Right. So this week I want to. Well, you've already got scrolling clouds or not, but something simpler.
Yeah.
Simple. By the end of this week, I just want to achieve this small thing. It takes you a year to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
2 years to do it. Well, so what? It's a hobby. It's an interest. It's a conduit. It's not about. You're not doing it for kudos and getting this thing released. That comes as a reward to all your hard work.
Exactly.
At the end of it, but you don't need to be a prolific releaser of stuff. This isn't the 8-bit era you're mucking about with here.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You're mucking about with something way more complex. I mean, you're lucky you have artistic skills and musical prowess that you understand how to use trackers to make the music and that. So yeah, I'm quite chuckling at myself. 1 minute he's working with the graphics, next minute he's on the engine, and he's like, "I'll make music now." You don't need to make music now. You know what I mean? You can do that at the end, but it's how your mind works, and it's like because your fingers are many pies. You have different talents. You understand code and program to a degree. You have an artistic flair in you as well, the creative juices. So it's a conduit for all your interests into one place, one box, and you're like, it's trying to restrain yourself. Channel it.
That's the problem. I guess where I was, what my sort of plan was, is to just have the sort of the game boot with the first screen with the ninja with all of his moves and like a bit of the tune, not like the whole tune, but just like a rough sort of Mega Drive interpretation of the tune. I just got stuck on the samples, and because I've been a bit busy of late, I haven't gone back to it for about a week. I'd say 5 days, something like that. So, but I was using this program called Furnace, which is a new chiptune tracker that's just been released, sort of in the last 3 or 4 months, I think it's been. But I think I'm going to roll back to Deathmask because that's been the tried and tested. And there's a lot more tutorials for Deathmask.
More support for that.
Exactly,
then,
yeah. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to go back to. I just want to crack that once I can get some samples playing in the FM6 channel, which is where they're supposed to play in the music. Once I crack that, then I'll knock out a quick version of the tune, like 2 loops or whatever, just so that when the screen loads, there's a bit of music, the moves are there, a bit of cloud scrolling, and then that'd be good for a first sort of tech demo of like where I want to leap off from. I guess that's where I'm trying
You've
to get.
You've got all the placeholders in then.
Yeah. Exactly,
Sounds good.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's what I've been sort of beavering away at the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, that makes for interesting catch-up news, that, mate. I mean, I can't really compete with that because I've done sweet FO. To be honest,
that sweet FO is good sometimes, man. You know
I know. Work-life balance, you know what it's like.
Definitely.
I mean, I've been playing some games. I've purchased the Tomb Raider remaster thing, so I can't wait to really get tucked into that. It's beautiful, but I love just having the game. They've been done tastefully. That the games look like to your eyes now what it looked to your eyes back in the 90s when it was first released.
I know what you mean. You know what I mean? Just on that Tomb Raider point, you know what it is like. You guys started to play the first Tomb Raider.
That's correct.
And I think I saw it too late, and it was too late for me to sort of jump in and enjoy the first game again. But I tried to join in on the Tomb Raider 2, and I couldn't fucking stand the game.
No, I mean, I dropped out of that one, so the guys...
I know you did. I did as well in the end, but...
I loved it back in the day. I really enjoyed it and thought at that point, wow, they've improved on the game, and played it right like the first one through to completion. And it was in Venice on the levels, and round every corner it was action, shooting, and it's like
just guns, wasn't it? Just shooting.
Yeah, and that's not what Tomb Raider is for me. It is the isolation and the exploration.
The odd dodgy enemy attacking you, innit? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, actually, I'd be interested on 3 because I think back in the day when I got the first Tomb Raider on Pirate, and I smashed that in like 5 days. But then I did buy the second one, but at the same time I bought the second one, I bought Final Fantasy VII. So I thought that because I'd bought 2 massive games like that at the same time, I didn't complete either of them. And I thought it was because that was the reason why I didn't get on with Tomb Raider 2. But in hindsight, playing it again, I found that it just like... One, the action was irritating because of the gunplay isn't that good in the game, is it really? From that time period.
It's not like Siphon Filter or something like that.
No, or Metal Gear Solid or something like that. For sure, but I found that the sort of puzzle element was quite heavy as well. Like I think it was the Opera House level. I think I got to the Opera House level. And it took me ages to work out that I'd missed a bloody switch somewhere. I'm running around the same things again and again and again, going, "What have I missed?" Like, and it's just some silly switch that I switched twice by accident. But I don't know. I just I think I got into the is it the oil rig or something? And I sort of checked out. I thought, I can't.
See, the trouble is with these locations. Is a lot of them are not ultra modern, but in the modern world, okay.
It's not tomb raiding, is it? That's fine.
It's not. And that's fine for a few levels, to give a bit balance of, Indiana Jones did that, didn't he as well, but the crux of it is you want to be in these mysterious places where you feel no one else is
like Jason, sort of Jason the Argonauts, like mythical beasts appearing out of nowhere, like T-Rex and things like that. You want that kind of stuff, don't you? Suddenly you're faced with something mammoth and you shit yourself. But like these constant fights against these enemies in the second one annoyed me. But
the music started playing, right, which gave because the way that the access to the PlayStation disc back in the day worked, so you get that frantic tune playing. It's like, well, I can't see bugger all yet. What's happening? Somebody obviously coming to kill me, but I don't know what, But
yeah, good old days.
In saying that, though, the remaster trilogy is...
so what are you doing? Are you playing the first one at the moment? Or?
I am at the moment because I'm a sucker for the first one. But
yeah, I love the first one.
The Discord channel, we didn't really get that far in Tomb Raider 3, so I done the first sort of section where then you can choose where you want to go, right? You can.
Okay, I've never played Tomb Raider 3, so how does that compare to 1 and 2?
There's a balance there. I didn't think it was as good as 1, and I didn't quite as enjoy it back in the day, but I persevered with it, but didn't feel that sense of fulfillment. But going back, playing, not this remaster, but when we started playing it on, say, DuckStation or original hardware, whatever, I actually found a newfound love for it. The length of the levels are massive, but hooray for save states. You know what I mean? It's like, that's enough for tonight. Modern concessions, which these remasters do as well. You just go into the passport and save the game without waiting for the gems. Because remember in Tomb Raider 3, you don't remember, you've not played it, you could collect the gems and use them where you wanted to, so you could consume them all and be screwed, if you know what I mean. It's like shit. It's like ammunition in these games. I've overused the Uzis. I really needed them for later on, So you kind of got that modern concession if you so choose to. You know what I mean? But it's a bit like Monkey Island as well. You press the start button, okay, and it jumps to the original graphics. So you become obsessed by just keeping pressing that button and that, take that mode away because I become obsessed. I just want to play the bloody game, not, I wonder what it looked like in the past. Let's compare it to the future. Backwards and forwards. And I've done the same in, the remastered Monkey Island series as well. And just don't give me it. I'm an obsessive person when it comes to things like that. So anyway,
it's irritating, that, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey ho. Anyway, let's get on to the main episode, mate. So, as in the title and the poster for this particular episode, we decided to do a continuing series called 8-Bit Underdogs, which covers all these excellent gaming home micros from back in the 80s, which don't get the same kind of love, to be honest, because we all speak about it. I mean, you've got the big three. You've got the Spectrums, which we do champion, maybe a little bit too much. Apologies, Commodore people and Amstrad people. That we'll remedy that, and throughout the year here. But yeah, you got the giants, as I said there. You got the Spectrum, the Commodore, and the Amstrad, which were the main, and especially in the UK. That's the point. We're a UK centric podcast, so therefore we speak about our own personal gaming experiences. We can't help the systems we were exposed to, but that does not give all these other wonderful gaming systems the chances and the chance to shine. So, albeit we have covered this system previously because it's a home micro dear to yourself, Rick.
That's right.
We decided to open this series up. What a better chance than to revisit the Atari 8-bit family, because we said we would return to it anyway because it's such a blast the last time we covered it, but use this as the pilot, if you want, of this continuing series of 8-bit Underdogs. What a wonderful system. So just before we go and speak about our own personal experiences of it, now, I was wondering how to open the episode, and I've always had this book line called the Nostalgie Nerds Retrotech, which I bought in the works for pennies, to be honest. A lovely little compendium covering all the things we're exposed to, computers and consoles, to be honest. And rather than me write something for once, I thought, you know what, let's see what they said about the introduction of the particular system. So if you indulge me for a moment, I'll just read a little excerpt to, give a flavour for the Atari family. Now, we'll be mainly, I know you had the XL, but we're covering the 400 and 800 anyway, in terms of these as gaming systems. These are the ones that most people were exposed to, or the XL version of them. So let's see what this book has to say about it. Atari may have been dominating the home gaming market at this time. So we're talking, the 70s at this point here, folks. But with machines like the TRS-80, they saw potential in the micro and wanted a slice of the sweet, sweet pie. A gentleman by the name of J. Miner, and if you're not familiar with him, will be by the end of this book, so obviously buy this book. We'll put that in the show notes, folks. Had created a custom display chip for the Atari 2600, and it was released in 1977. After that project, Jay went to work creating a more advanced pair of chips called Antic and CTIA that would make their way into Atari's first 8-bit home computers. Announced in January 1979 and launched before the year was out, the Atari 400, originally conceived to have 4 kilobytes of RAM, while the 800 had 8 kilobytes. But with technology advancing so quickly, and it was just as much cost effective to put 8 kilobytes in each machine for launch, and with the option of 16 kilobytes in the 800 and later 48 kilobytes as standard. The 400 also featured a membrane keyboard and a single cartridge slot compared to a full stroke keyboard and double cartridge slots of the 800. The 400 was more toy-like, but both machines did convey the impression of being gaming computers rather than the ones for any serious use. The custom display chips, coupled with the MOS 6502B CPU, meant these machines were very impressive for the time, grabbing the attention of families who wanted something to entertain their children while offering the potential for educational use. Aye, right. As with the TRS-80, North America would be the largest market for this duo, with the $550 price tag still a little too high for the price-conscious European consumer market. Although the price tag was the same as the TRS-80, the vibrant colour, visuals and Atari name ensured the success of this range. The lifespan of this 8-bit line was an impressive 13 years, with various makeovers in that time, and it led to sales of over 4 million units before it was discontinued. Well, that was it's a nice book, that, and I will put it in the show notes. And I think it quite covers it quite well, and obviously it's right. The prices of this system at the time, right? So that was, we were saying $550. That was for the 400 model. The 800 was like $1,000. So they were talking 1979, right? So it's using obviously some similar architecture as the Commodore 64.
Very similar in ways. Yeah,
didn't come out till 1982, right? So you have 3 bloody years. 3 years Atari had to be a market leader in the home computer, right? But unfortunately, the Commodore's dominance, especially in the North American market, just took over. Although 4 million units is quite respectable, let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
But in terms of Europe, we didn't really see these hitting our shores until they become a bit more affordable during the XL period. Is that correct, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think because the XL came out in '83, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
And I think some people probably would have got them because of the VCS, like an upgrade from the VCS, so to speak.
Brand recognition.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably why we ended up with one. I think my dad's mates he had on a CB who he used to go and visit. They had the XL, and that's why we ended up with one back in the day rather than a Specky or anything else. It's very. I can't believe really they came out in '79, because really the only thing that differentiates the 400 from the 800 is really the RAM, isn't it? Like, the what was it, 48? Did you say it was 48K?
Eventually 48K.
It started with 16, didn't it, or something? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's right. 16 it started off with. I mean, it's just mental because it's too low. But the price at that point, memory was prohibitive at the cost, and the trouble with that limited amount of RAM then was the creative
Couldn't
ideas.
make use of anything, could you?
Obviously compare it to the Atari home console, it was still leaps and bounds beyond it, especially the more custom chips, separate graphic handling, can do bitmaps and all the rest, so you've got this wonderful machine that is, for its time, pretty bloody powerful.
Yeah.
But
for
hamstrung by, unfortunately, they're being the first to the post in terms of really any direct rivals, to say the least. I mean, you had a computer with 4 joystick ports, right? How that is mental. I mean, what were they thinking? What games were they envisaging? Well, we'll get to that obviously in the list here, mate. But what was the vision? It was just, there's space. It's just a blank bezel at the front. Let's chuck more fucking ports in, and we'll worry about that later. What?
The first Dreamcast,
Exactly, mate. yeah. Build it and they will come. So, but I mean, you had the 400 as well. It was like the bit I read out there said it was more Twilight because it had a membranous keyboard. So for people that wanted to program on it, probably was hamstrung like the same people that had the early iterations of the Sinclair's ZX80 and the ZX81. That to start typing in BASIC is going to be, it's a bit clunky, isn't it, on a membranous keyboard? And I understand, they're trying to market it to make it more cost effective, but unfortunately for us stingy and far more poorer paid Europeans at the time, we couldn't compete with the wealth at that point that was going on in working class America, right? I mean, 1979 UK did not reflect 1979 North America. Okay, there was still bleakness and strikes and political and industrial disputes in America. Of course there was. I'm not making slight of that. But our wages were shit.
Yep.
And as like anything, we're still coming off the point of, we probably had a lot of children in our families back then because we came off the back of, we're still of mortality rate is rather high. Let's have large families, right? So we're weaning off that slightly because life expectancy is going up. But we're still, 3 or 4 siblings in a family, and there's no way your parents on working class families could afford these computers. You got yours in '83, and your dad sounds like an awesome wheeling and dealer, but all through his CB network, he procured you this wonderful gaming system.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. Let's spoke about it better, possibly.
Possibly.
But there you go. We had the VCS in '83. Probably would have been a lot cheaper. It was, it was at the end of its life, really, by then. And I think we got the XL around 84, 85. So wouldn't have been peak price, but it probably would have been fairly expensive. But it probably, no, my old man, he probably went in a new shop or some bloody thing and got it second hand or something.
That doesn't matter though. That's the thing. I mean, when we were kids, we were sometimes selfish little brats that just demanded and wanted, not really appreciating the hardships our parents had to go through to afford us these things. And you look back and you feel, a bit more guilty. And we're in a different era where we can provide our own children a gaming PC or it's different now. You know what I mean? It's like things have moved on, and well, that's good. You know what I mean? But you don't make slight of that, and we all scoff at the kids that had the obscure computers, didn't we? And we took the piss. But the one thing I retain is that was their gateway to space, gateway to fantasy worlds, right? Escaping from the bullies of school or whatever.
Tiger handhelds.
Exactly, mate. But how dare anyone, in all honesty, take the piss of any?
How dare they?
How dare they? Yeah. But it's true though, isn't it? I mean, whatever gaming system you had, right? Unless it was in a fucking Amstrad, right? Right? No. But everyone had brilliant fun and made the best of the situation they had, right? I mean, the only one computer out of them all that I probably would have struggled to had as much enjoyment out of, and I'll be honest, it was a VIC-20.
Oh yeah.
Right? Especially, more so because to get a budget Commodore and see what the Commodore 64 was able to do, right, was just like saying you're not worthy, right? You're just getting this inferior machine. At least
that'd be like the sort of difference between the ZX80 and the bleeding 128K Spectrum, innit? Really.
Yeah, but at least that was a natural progression, right?
Yeah.
They weren't marketing both at the same time, saying,
"Oh no, for sure,
that's for the fucking paupers." At least with the Atari, you had the 400 or the 800. So if your parents couldn't afford it, you maybe got the lesser machine, right? But you probably weren't interested in programming and coding. You just wanted to play bloody games. And it handled them. And that's the point, right? Because they knew, well, it's difficult to be a software developer. Well, what do I make the game for? There's a 50-50 market split. 50% of the people bought the 400. 50% of the people bought the 800. I'm going to have to make a game at the lesser RAM demands. You know what I mean? So... But anyway, it's a system worth speaking about, right? And for us also in the UK, we weren't going to... I mean, did yours have a disc drive when you got yours, or were you cassette?
First had a cassette, but then we did get a disc drive for it, which was quite kind of, kind of mind-blowing at the time, yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. Another big expense. I mean, for us in the UK here, certainly it would just be cassette. It took forever to load, but... You know what? If that's all you had and that's all you were exposed to, you just thought, well, that's it. That's how it works. The only time I saw at this period disc drives working was at school on the BBC Micros. And fine, you just accepted it. I mean, when you loaded the game, okay, people anecdotally say it took 20 minutes. It didn't take 20 minutes. It was probably
like 5 minutes.
5 minutes. It was that, right? Because, well, consider the amount of games you crammed on a C90, you know exactly how long a game took to load.
You probably spent longer arguing with your mate what game you was going to play next.
Exactly, mate, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, let's go into some games, because this is what we hear about.
Exactly.
Okay, so, I mean, we covered some of the big hitters.
Some great ones, yeah.
Beforehand, and we're not going to go...
with the 8-bit memories and the Atari specific episode, we covered some great games for the Atari, didn't we?
Absolutely. So we're not going to recover old ground. That'd be pointless. So if you want to use those episodes as a companion episode, then tune into them. We'll put them in the show notes as well. But let's come on to some fresh games that also make the Atari family home computers shine. So on to the first one. We're going to go to the year 1984. And this is a movie tie-in, very loose, to be honest. You probably, if you didn't give it the name, you wouldn't even think it was anything to do with the movie, really, would you, Rick? Yeah.
Actually, it did start life as a different game, didn't it?
More on that in a little second. But anyway, what one about, and that's Conan, the Hall of Volta, or if you look in the front cover of the game, it just says Conan. So 1984 by Datasoft, originally was released on the Apple II computers and ported across to the Atari 8-bit, but it really does shine on this system. I mean, do you want to give it a little description, Rick, and just explain what this game's about?
Yeah, sure. So it's literally a flip, not a flip screen, but like a single screen platformer game where Conan can either throw his sword as a sort of projectile which boomerangs back to him.
Nice touch, by the way.
Yeah, and actually, when the game started off as Visigoth, and they changed the sword out. They changed out the boomerang type weapon that he had into Conan's sword. So that's why the mechanic works out, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's just it's got a what would you say? I'd say it's got a bit of a Goonies style vibe.
Exactly a Goonies vibe.
Graphically, it looks a little bit like the Goonies, not exactly, but it's got that similar sort of style to it. And it's just, a very small game. I think there's only 7 levels, if I remember correctly. But obviously, each level gets, each level gets more difficult, vastly more difficult than the previous one as you go through. And yeah, you literally somersault from platform to platform, go up and down the ladders, kill the baddies, and work out where the keys and the puzzles, how to do that, basically, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a sucker for these low fidelity platformers where they've not quite 100% refined it, right? It's slightly janky, right?
Yeah.
But in a good way. But the level design is so good that all is forgiven in terms of the shortfallings of the game, if that makes sense, yeah? So
that's right, yeah.
I mean, it starts off on the first screen and it's like a castle entrance. And there's a few ladders.
Introduces you to the basics, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. There's a freaking bat that you have to... It's not... Even though they're on fixed paths, the bad guys on this, or the bats, the scorpions, whatever, it's not necessarily just left and right like you would normally associate with many platformers, Manic Miner or whatever. The bat has multiple pathways it can choose.
He's a bastard,
yeah. Oh my God. And your boomerang can be too low for it sometimes or whatnot, so you have to decide how to...
They're placed awkwardly, aren't they? Yeah. You have to know the... Yeah.
Absolutely. But there's something... I don't know. I was absolutely absorbed with this game. I was just consumed by its simplicity, but addicted, to be honest. I love this type of game. If a modern game was released looking like this, with maybe a bit more refined control system, where it's slightly more forgiving on the jumps.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of jumps where if you don't jump in the right place, you hit your head on the ceiling, don't you? And then you fucking fall down 10 miles.
Exactly that. I mean, there are modern games like this. You played like Love or anything on Steam. I don't know what else it's released on. It looks ancient but plays wonderful, So
yeah.
But no, this to me is very indicative of the Atari, to be honest. And games like this are the things that made me jealous being a Spectrum owner because of the less sharpness, less detailed sprites, right? But the colours, just the way that the whole game handled and felt unique and exclusive to the Atari itself. You know, I mean, okay, it came into the Commodore 64, and I said it was on Apple II before.
Well, I think I was just about to say, I think that what happened with this game, because it does seem to suffer with a bit of flicker.
Yeah.
And I think that's because the code from the Apple II, which must be doing something very strange with the video chips and stuff, causes the game to flicker and slow down. And it does the same thing on the Atari and the C64. So I think was it Ron Fortier of Bruce Lee fame? He was one of the members that brought this game from the Apple II.
Right.
So I feel like this probably could have been a bit smoother and a bit more together if it wasn't a direct port. I think if it was written directly by these guys, I think it probably could have been a little bit faster, a little bit less flickery. But this was something I found out for this episode, is I didn't even realise that the Apple II used the MOS 6502 as well. I didn't. Right. That's another computer that uses that chip. Quite interesting that.
Yeah, but I think if anyone likes the single screen platform games, and it's not just a case of, it's not just like collecting shiny objects in that sense. There is a puzzle element to each of the levels. You know, how to open doors, how to time the jumps. And actually figure out. I mean, look at level 2. Getting down from the tree is a challenge in its own right, isn't it? You have to learn and appreciate the mechanics of the game to learn when you just want to run and fall rather than jump. And
that's right.
Stuff
so
you
learn the nuance of the jump in level 1, where you got to jump across that bell tower, so to speak, to get to the ramparts, or whatever you want to call it, at the top of the castle, to get to the exit of the level. Then you got to use what you learnt with the jump in level 1 to then work out how to get down off the tree into level 2 to get the key, etc. And then level 3 it ramps up, because you got a teleporter and enemies that teleport through the teleporter as well, and you got to get an object, move it somewhere, and it's well thought out. I love this one back in the day. You know, I remember this one. I played this one back in the day. Had it on both the C64 and the Atari 800 XL. And great bloody music as well. I really like the tunes on this one. Didn't have any tunes on the Apple II. I think it had an intro tune, but the actual in-game tunes were non-existent on the Apple II. So they wrote tunes for the game, for the Atari 800 and the C64, and they're great tunes. I really like them tunes.
Yeah, for sure. Imagine, I mean, it's easy enough if you've not played a game like this. Well, not a game like this, but this game in particular, right? Until recently, but I mean, go back to this early period. I mean, it would just blow your mind. I mean, I didn't play this one back in the day. Obviously, it was always a recommended game to play in the system, so I'm familiar with it. But I like to go into these games and go, well, what would have younger myself thought of this back in its day? And I do like to attack these games with that kind of mindset. And this was exactly what I would have wanted to play. I would have loved playing this. There's a sense of adventure on it. It's not pure arcade, is it? It is a platform and adventure. I think you nailed it with the Goonies comparison there. It gives me that kind of vibe, how the levels are very well thought out. You don't have that many of them, but it does take a lot of time to suss out how to complete them all. Really good. So I think it's a good opener and a very good first game to play. I mean, even if you've got a Commodore, play it on that, for goodness sake.
For sure, it's just the same. It's basically the same game. It's slightly different colour palette, that's it. Yeah,
that's all it is. But
that's it.
Really, really good one. Really enjoyed this. And I'm actually going to continue playing this till I can complete it, because I think it's thoroughly enjoyable. I was playing it with a big grin on my face all the way through, and that's always a good sign of a decent game. Right, on to the next game.
Okie dokes.
And this is Cavelord. Now, I've played this at my mate's house back in the day, but it was in German because the game was in German. Mm-hmm. Ich bake boiled beef, you know. I did German at school, but luckily we had the German dictionary, so we were able to translate it when we were playing it and find out what you need to do. So what I'm on about, it's Cavelord. It was released in 1985 by Areola Soft. And
Areolas. Areolas.
He started.
I don't need a drisky fart, mate.
No,
I can make my own
don't.
jokes up.
Yeah, that's it. So,
oh dear.
yes, indeed. So what is Cavelord about? Well, this is a brilliant cave cavern adventure where you play this little hero called Telos, and he must find the broken crown for his liege, his king in the caverns, so he can ascend the throne, basically. But what an absolute fantastic game this genuinely is. I don't know if you agree yourself, but I was hooked on this back then, and I'm still hooked on this to this day. I mean, I don't know if you want to give it a bit more fuller description yourself, Rick, of give it a bit of flavour for the listeners.
I did play this one back in the day. I've got vague memories of it, and it's a really nice. What would you call it? It's just it's a adventure-esque type game, except you're sort of like what would you call it? You're sort of like this little Yoda-looking motherfucker on this like I don't know, this nonce dragon. I don't know. Sort of this weird sort of flying chicken dragon type thing, and you just got to go around. You've got to pick up your objects.
Joust the adventure.
I was about to, joust the adventure. That's
this is
perfect.
What this game is.
Yeah. I was just about to say joust actually, but yeah, you do fly these jousty looking chicken things around, and what's great about it is that as you fly around the map, there's all these sort of environmental hazards. So it's not like your average sort of, oh, here's an enemy, kill it or dodge it or jump it or whatnot. Mm-hmm. You've got these environmental hazards like falling water, electric, like electric lightning bolts, volcanoes or geysers or whatever, all that.
Don't call me
stuff.
A geezer.
Geezer. And then vines sort of, like roughage in the level that's sort of animated, swinging about, sort of slows you down a little bit.
That's right, yeah.
You get a bit of environmental impact on your character there. And it's just basically, going from A to B, finding the different keys and the different objects to unlock different parts of the level. Yeah. And it's a really nippy, nicely scrolling game with some nice physics and nice mechanics in it, really. The shooting's cool. You've got 8-direction shooting, and the enemy patterns are a bit irritating, but it gives you a bit of warning when an enemy's going to come. You get like this little
spawn.
I'm going to call it sparkly spawning thing that gives you just a brief moment to go and you shoot it before it appears and all that if you can. And yeah, it's just a great little adventure type game, I'd say. Just a side scroller instead of sort of an over the head type affair, really, with a bit of flying, sort of flying around the game.
I think you nailed it, and it brings the essence of what adventure on the 2600 brought to me. One of the first games I played at home. It's just showed me that games needn't be just about Space Invader type things or flying spaceships, which many kind of games were. This was pure fantasy in this land where obviously start off next to the king and it's like, find me my crowns, simplistic fetch quest commands. And there's other NPCs in the land, I suppose, if you want to call them that, before that was even a thing, which do the same. The dinosaur goes, give me my egg and I'll show you the way, or a key, as you alluded to there. and it opens up more subsections off the caverns, or progress further into the next stage to find the bits of the crown. Obviously, you can pick up gold as you're going along as well, just to increase your treasure. But I think the level design's really good. It is labyrinthian in that way, you know. You can you don't get lost per se. It's
you've got certain areas of the level are sort of cut off, aren't they? And you know that I've got to go around here until I find the right object. It's linear in that way. But it feels, it gives you the illusion of like progression, doesn't it? And I don't know. It's just it's been a long time since I played this, because I haven't played this since probably 85, 86, 87 maybe at the latest. But this was one I would have had on the old disc drive, I'd imagine. And it's just so well put together. It's like it's a game that I don't think it's on any other system, isn't it? It's just an 800 or an 8-bit exclusive to the Atari, and it's really, really nice game. Really, really, really well done, I think.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. I absolutely adore this. I think it's one of the best games on the system.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we didn't decide to include it previously, but that's fine, because it gives us a reason for an episode now. What I really enjoy about it, and I didn't really appreciate back in the day, is the random nature of where things are placed. The crown shards are in different places, the gold you can find, or whatever else. It's not always in the same place, so you do have to explore all over, just in case the object that you need or require is spawned in a particular place. I absolutely think it shines. I mean, it's blocky graphics, they look dated now, but that's part of the charm, I think.
I think one of the problems we have today is that because we play on generally we play on the old LCD type monitors. We lose the blurriness of the pixels, and it makes it look more blocky than we really would have seen it back in the day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It does play a part, but I don't know. I just it's a cracking little game. The reason why we probably didn't cover it before is because, like many games that I played on this system, I've forgotten them. But as soon as I put one on, I'm like, I played this back in the day. This was a cracking little game, mate. I'm glad you've reintroduced me to it, to be honest, because I've forgotten all about it.
And unfortunately now there's an English patch as well.
Brilliant,
Yeah, so if you don't want to open up the old German dictionary or Google Translate to see what people are saying to you, just really good one, mate. It's a really good one.
Yeah, it's a brilliant one. Yeah, brilliant one. Well recommended. Yeah, I think the first two games for sure. If you've not played them, give them a go. Either on you obviously got to play this one on the Atari, but you can play the Conan on the Commodore 64 as well. They're great games. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Next one is a recommendation by yourself. Obviously, much nostalgia with it for yourself. So, do you want to take front stage and
sell it to the world?
Sell it to the masses.
So what we have here is I remembered it as SWAT, but it's actually Los Angeles SWAT. And this was a game I remember one of the rare times I'd go with my old man up to his mate's CB mate, winemaker, as he was called, his handle was called on the old CB, and he was him and his son were heavily into all the B board, the BB boards and all that sort of lark. And I remember him sort of just throwing disc after disc into the machine, showing me what he'd downloaded in all these games. And one of the ones that he showed me was LA SWAT. And basically, LA SWAT is a urban sort of Atari interpretation of Capcom's Commando, isn't it?
Absolutely.
For all intents and purposes. The difference being that with LA SWAT, the enemies, except for the snipers on the roof, don't have a gun. They throw bombs at you, but they're quite fucking irritating, the grenades that they chuck at you. But so you're sort of going up the screen. And what I kind of liked about it back in the day as well is that your lives are represented by reserves or like guys in your squad that are sort of running up the screen with you either side. Obviously they can't get killed, but they sort of, it makes you feel like you're not just one bloke. You're like, you've got other geezers helping you, sort of thing. And you go up the screen, there's cars dashed in the road or parked. There's the old age pensioner walking with his walking stick. If you shoot him, you lose 1,000 points. And then at the end of the level, you get the sort of obligatory sort of rush of enemies, and then the hostage that you can either accidentally kill or kill the person holding the hostage. And it's always a lovely damsel in distress. And you get to sort of rescue her and crack on to the next level. So this was a 1986 game, wasn't it? By a prolific software house on the Atari 800XL, which was Sculptured Software, which did a hell of a lot of good games. But what did you think of this one, King? Now I'm thinking that maybe hindsight hasn't done it a massive favour, but when you think of the time and where it was, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, right? There's massive nostalgia for you as part of this, and we cannot do an episode where someone has memories of something and playing it. You know what I mean? It's part of the thing, whether a game is not well received or not. I don't think it's awful by any means. It's not. It's probably the weakest game on the list we're covering in this episode, but it was fun enough, and I played it longer than I thought I would. It becomes a bit addictive, because you start playing it and you're a bit crap because you hope you can shoot the snipers on the roofs, but you realise that you just need to go to the other side of the street to avoid them. It's more like a barrier that you cannot pass. You must not
narrowing
pass.
of the path, isn't it? Yeah.
But no, it's a reasonable. I mean, it's better than the Spectrum version. That's for sure. So the Spectrum version, at least it's got the colour and the sprites are quite nice and got these things going for it. It's playable enough. The enemy rush at the end was quite enjoyable. I just found the levels a bit samey.
It's all just going up the screen. Well, it's Commando, isn't it? To be fair, but
at least Commando had a wee bit more.
I suppose it's an arcade game, though, isn't it? But
it is.
What I did find hilarious is that there's a little bit of personality coming out in this game, because if you get accosted by one of the rioters, they bash the shit out of your head with the club. It's quite a funny animation. I think that's what that's one of the things that sort of drew me to it back in the day as well. It was just the silly animation from when you get busted on the head by the. But I think one of the problems with the game in terms of the playability sort of side of things, apart from the homing grenades that the guys throw at you, is that the diagonal shot angle is a bit weird, isn't it? It's almost more horizontal than it is vertical, and it makes it kind of difficult with the angles. But really, the game is all about just sidestepping left and right to avoid the grenades and just getting the shot off. I mean, you can just run up the entire level and miss all the enemies if you want to, and just get to the boss rush at the end. I don't know. For 1986,
It was a budget game.
it was a budget game. I got it for free. I really enjoyed it, and it's probably not, like you say, it's probably the weaker game on the list, but it's just the nostalgia I've got for it, and
no, I understand that. Yeah,
yeah.
But what was interesting for me, and this kind of leads on to the next game, but it's worth speaking point about this, is that on the Altera emulator that was playing this on, you have a choice of the different colour palettes. So you can choose the NTSC colour palette or the PAL one. And I played it on PAL first, just to try it and then jump back and forth. And you start chuckling at yourself because rather than, we've all seen it in other systems where the hues are slightly different between NTSC and PAL. And you accept that and you go, okay, there's mild differences. These are huge differences between the colour palettes. I don't know if and this will be my own ignorance, because although I played quite often at my mate's house, your memory's not going to capture colours, is it? It's a gaming experience, so you don't remember. But on LA SWAT here, all the rioters were running about in pink, on the PAL version. And it's more, it's not like that on the NTSC. So I don't know how accurate, that's the question. And I'm opening this up to any of the listeners who are more familiar with the Atari 8-bit family computers. Is there a huge difference between the PAL and NTSC colour palette if you do compare them? I don't know, I'm ignorant of that. But it's fun jumping between them both. To see just the different colours, it's good.
Well, I think the problem is that back in the day, the actual hardware, like the CRT hardware, was vastly different when it come to handling colours between NTSC and PAL. There was like, for example, I can't remember what pot it was on the CRTs back in the day, which changed something to do with the colours. Now I'm being very vague, but basically you couldn't match NTSC colour differences with the PAL system, but with the NTSC monitors you could get closer to what PAL. So if a game was written for PAL, say, with the pot, you could adjust the colours so that they would fit better on the NTSC version, but around the other way it wouldn't work nearly as well. So it's down to how the NTSC systems handled the color palette. So the sort of Atari system between the PAL and the NTSC version had a different color palette to choose from based on what the different monitors were doing at the time, in terms of like what their color ranges and outputs were. So it's I mean, this is sort of wizardry back in the day when people had to worry about what monitor games were going to be displayed on. You know what I mean? Like lost tech.
See, I'm a guy that you just had to accept. You plugged it into your TV, and for many years,
black and white.
Exactly that, mate. Right? I had no fucking choice. Right? The portable black and white up in the bedroom. You're playing on that and trying to put, the Jet Set Willy colour code into a black and white monitor to get the game bloody working. It was crazy, but no, it's fascinating, and I'm really intrigued and interested by this, because also on the emulator you have a whole custom colour palette. You're fanning about all day changing the colours, and it becomes a game in its own right. Let's play the game again, and new colours, new range of pastels or whatever. So to me, the point I'm making here is, what is a native colour? You know what I mean? I don't know. You can give me it and I'll just believe that's how the game's meant to look. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think basically you got to know whether the game you're playing was written for the NTSC market or converted for PAL, etc. And I think that is a difficult one, because I think the market split with the Crash in America. By the time the Crash in America appeared, really the Atari only lived on in the European market, which was a lot smaller. I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Because there were so many more micros over here compared to because the US didn't get any of the micros really, apart from the Commodore, did they, and the Atari.
That's right.
Really. So it's cool, and I think we'll talk more about this with the next game, won't we? If we're going to move on to that.
Excellent segue. So we'll come back to the colour thing a little bit in this game, but I would really like to introduce this one because I really have enjoyed playing this one quite thoroughly, to be honest. This one had always been recommended and I had never played it before, so it was new to me, and that's exciting. I always love that discovery. There's not enough of them anymore, right? Little treasures, little hidden gems that stand out, and I'm never going to be the one to profess I'm the almanac of every game that ever exists, especially in more lesser known systems. It's the things I didn't grow up with, I just went through 100 fricking games off the spectrum there. I hope I did you proud on that, but but no, this one is new to me, and it is Drol, and it was released by Broderbund in 1983 was it?
I think.
Originally it was another Apple II game and then ported across to the Atari 8-bit family as well. So what is this game? Well, the player controls this little sort of spaceman robot dude who runs along a 4-story scrolling arena, if you want to call it that. And the main idea is you have to rescue 2 people in this tiered construction, blasting all the enemies and aliens and creatures that all come towards you. So it's kind of like a horde rush where they can come from behind you or in front of you, but there's a little scanner below that you can see
very
what's
indicative
coming.
Of the time, isn't it, that little scanner?
Absolutely. Yeah. Very accurate as well, by the way. It's bang on. When they arrive on the screen, it says in the scanner where they're going to be there. So how you get to the different levels is there's little trapdoors which you can see on the scanner as well, and you just press down or up on your rocket pack, and the hatch opens, you go down or up on them accordingly. And eventually what appears is a little girl with her balloon, or her crazy brother who's flying about in a propeller thing. Dinosaur thing. There's no real explanation of that, but they are who they are. So I don't know the triggers there's maybe real deep nuances in the game to make them appear. I don't know, but they eventually appear and you rescue them and you go on to the next level. But it's really addictive. It's fluid, it's fun. It is pretty much fast paced, but it
scrolls lovely, doesn't it? Yeah.
This would have been, to me, if this was an arcade game that I put 10 pence in, I would have bloody put a lot of money in playing this. It's really good, really enjoyable. And what do you think of it?
Yeah, this was one I played back in the day. Very definitely remember playing this one. It's got games I could sort of compare it to in a weird way. A little bit of Drop Zone in there, and Atomic Robo Kid. I wonder if that took some influence from this. Maybe it's got
I was thinking Athena.
Oh, Athena, as well. Yeah. Psycho Soldiers and stuff. It's got the only difference between those two games is obviously Athena can jump between levels no problem, but Drol has to use the little elevator shafts. But very similar in that respect. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's and one thing I didn't mention there, I suppose, with the gameplay is that obviously you can run on the floor, but certain sort of enemies or situations mean that you need to use the little jump mechanic. So basically, on every level, sort of tier, every sort of floor you go on, there are 2 tiers. There's either the one where he's flying and touching the ceiling, or there's one where he's walking, and depending on what's coming at you, you can use one of those 2 tiers to make things easier. Sometimes the enemies fire something at you, and you can either jump over it or walk away from it, depending on how close they are, I suppose. And to my knowledge, this is one of the first games I can remember where I think you got 4 shots. You know, some games have a hard limit of how many bullets you can fire. And Drol has that limit. I think it's 4 shots. And one of the things that I find quite interesting with this game is the it uses sort of negative edge, which means that, you know, you press the fire button down, he fires a shot. And if you release the button, he then fires another shot. So you can kind of, instead of tapping away like a mentalist, you can sort of, you know, pad the button
rhythmically,
to sort of, exactly, to keep a stream of bullets in view. So if anything nips onto the screen, you've got some bullets already there to take them out. But it's a lovely game. Scroll's nice, and I suppose this is where we go in terms of the color differences and the nuances of the system and the things that people were doing with it.
Absolutely. Now, what we're alluding to here is this game utilizes the artifacting abilities of the Atari, and this is new to me. I had to read up on this, so you know I'm not coming as a fountain of knowledge here, because when I first fired up the game, it was in black and white.
And garbled a bit,
and what I thought it looked cool was, well, that's quite cool. It's very stylistic. I was playing it, and it didn't impact on the fluidity of the game. I was like, this is great, right? But then I went on YouTube and went, that's from fucking colour.
Yeah.
Right? You know, what am I doing wrong? Is this an emulator issue? You know, and you would not have experienced this back in the day, because it would just right out the box. Do the artifacting. Fine. So what is artifacting? So artifacting takes advantage of the limitations of the graphics hardware to produce additional colours beyond what the system natively supports. Okay? So these the Atari 8-bit computers were capable of displaying only 4 colours on the screen at the same time, chosen from a larger palette of 128 colours. However, right, by exploiting the way the graphical hardware generated these colours, developers were able to create the illusion of more colours, additional colours on the screen. So this technique involves carefully choosing combination of colours that, when displayed adjacent to each other, they created the appearance of... It's a bit like when you were learning primary colours and secondary colours in art when you were at primary school. Everything I mixed just turned to Jobby Brown, by the way, mate. I was shite at it.
I'm surprised you weren't a Commodore user.
Anyway, so this is achieved by exploiting the graphics hardware that produced the colours by combining the luminance values with the NTSC televisions. And this is the point with the NTSC television signal, selecting specific combination of colours, positioning them in close proximity, and therefore the developers could create the illusion of these different colours because of that.
So in the case, so like some of the graphics in Drol, some of the pillars and bits and pieces are made up of like what would you call it, like a crosshatch type of pixel art, where you've got to say like a red crosshatch on top of a solid blue, you know, in terms of, you know, how you would think of it. And instead of it being red pixels and blue pixels, it kind of fudges into a purple because of the way the signal produces the picture. And and the whites on the blue create a green, so you get more colours. You know, you probably end up with about 8 colours on the screen with this technique, don't you?
Blew me away, mate. I was like, try to read up on it and try to get my head around it, and I was like, and then we tried the PAL version, didn't we? Because I don't know why it offers that then on the emulator, because you can do NTSC artifacting, okay? Then you can do PAL artifacting. You do PAL artifacting, it just goes that black and white way again, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think that if the game was written for PAL, then the artifacting works.
Got you.
Yeah, because obviously the PAL signal has got its own artifacting properties. It's basically because these old computers would have used like RF or composite at the very most, wouldn't they? And you get that kind of compression on the screen, don't you? And it blurs pixels together. And that's where these that's what the emulator does, is if the game was displayed how it literally is,
it's
just
simulating the whole CRT effect. Yeah,
exactly.
It's wonderful. But it was fascinating. It became a game again in its own right, dicking about with the colour palettes to make the game look different, and mucking about with the artifacting options on the emulator. And I was like, this is great. This is fun. This is a really considered and very powerful emulator that, you know, strives to create.
Yeah, in terms of 8-bit emulators, this is sitting in the UAE sort of a complexity level, isn't it? You know, of options and things you can mess around with, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that's the thing, when you if you fire up your emulators on Raspberry Pis and that, it tends to be you don't see the background. You know, it's done in like a Batacera one, and you just, there's Atari 8-bit, I'll fire it up, and you're playing it, and however it's been configured by
that's right, yeah,
the people who's compiled it. But when you download these emulators on the PC, you have all the workings there, and that's the bit I enjoy just as much, to be honest.
Tinkering,
the tinkering with it to create as humanly close to the CRT experience as you can, and I think it does it wonderfully, and it enhanced the game, to be honest. Just learning this, appreciating it. It's a great game anyway. I think I mean, I've enjoyed all the games in this chosen list, to be honest. Even LA SWAT, I'm not going to insult it. You know, it's got some qualities to it, but this stood out. This really,
for sure.
You know, had the kind of vibrancy, the visuals of a BBC Micro game.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah. I know, for sure,
If that makes sense, and I was just I played this for ages and thoroughly enjoyed it, to try and understand how the game worked as well, you know. I was convinced there was deeper elements to the game, like, you know, bubble layers of elements to the game to progress. Probably not, I don't know, but I just adore this, and I think if there's any one single game, if people are not really into this system and you're only going to fire up one game, please fire up this one.
Yeah, I'd fire this one up, or Cavelord to begin with, because those two games are definitely gonna scratch an itch that you might not have been able to scratch, you know, with other systems, perhaps.
Indeed.
Yeah.
1982, my good sir. Quite early on, to be honest. Now, there's an interesting story behind this as well, and this is Fort Apocalypse by Synsoft. Now, the reason I'm chuckling about this is because people compare Choplifter to this game. The trouble is, the offer was pretty miffed, because he was working it way before Choplifter came out, and he was told to shelf it to work on another game, and then Choplifter came out, and then to much critical acclaim and all the rest, and he was miffed. It's like, then he was told to go back and work on it. It was released, and then it's like, it's then in the shadow of the successful game. But I think, in my opinion, Fort Apocalypse holds its own, to be honest. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure, because it's very nuanced in terms of that sort of choplifter sort of aesthetic. Most choplifter sort of clones and that, it's literally you're on a single plane, aren't you, and you're killing enemies and collecting the dudes. But I suppose the difference in this one is you don't have to return them or anything. But there's I'd say this is like if you want a good analogy, I'd say this is like Thrust meets Choplifter, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, if you've played on, I know what it's like on Spectrum, so it's the only one I can compare it to. If you played Airwolf, on the Spectrum, I don't know why. I'll just tell you a memory. I had a guy with sticky out lugs at school that everyone called Earwolf.
Earwolf.
Anyway.
That only works in your accent.
And every time, maybe I see him once every couple of years, in the passing. And and the tune do diddle do diddle do Earwolf. Anyway, this definitely influenced that version on the Spectrum. As I said, I know it's different on the Atari 8-bit because it was rebranded. You had Blue Thunder and Airwolf on the Atari 8-bit, and it was the same game, just rebranded. They're not, but it's not like this. This is you go down to caverns. That's on this so it's very much a subterranean. What madman flies a frickin' helicopter into subterranean destinations, Rick? That's just lunacy, isn't it? But it's really good because you're on the top level and there's defense systems firing missiles, enemy helicopters,
and buggers as well.
Then there's blocks to shoot that you have to shoot enough of them to fit the helicopter through, and there's defense mechanisms and whatnot else. It's a very much a precision flying game.
That's right. A bit proto Salamander in that respect, isn't it? The environmental parts of the level you need to sort of destroy to carve a path into different parts of the level. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I love this game. I think it's absolutely fantastic. The basic graphics on this, because there's not much going on graphic wise, right? They're quite rudimentary, but that's enough for this game. Seriously, it's fun to play. It's not a massive game, but getting to the little stick men that you have to rescue is far more trickier than what you might initially think.
It is, because you've got sort of three states of the helicopter. You've got the sort of hovering state where you're sort of the helicopter's looking at you
face on.
That's right. That allows you to drop bombs down to the ground and destroy a pathway below you. Then you've got the horizontal sort of idle mode, which fires the bullets horizontally. But then if you start moving, obviously the helicopter tilts forwards, and then the shots, it doesn't help you. It doesn't give you an auto guiding system. It starts firing the shots down because your helicopter's angled down as you move forward. So you've got to learn the nuances of how to use the shooting mechanics, because obviously if you've got a helicopter that's trying to kill you that's lower down to you, you rush it because obviously that's going to drop your nose down and give you the bullet angle to shoot them from above and stuff. It's it's very that's why I sort of used the analogy of Thrust, because although it hasn't got the gravity of Thrust, it's got that annoying caverns trying to navigate a cavern whilst you're working with the controls, if that makes sense. You're working with the controls of the ship you're flying, and trying to position yourself right to do what you need to do, basically, isn't it?
But it does give the illusion of depth and the suffocating depths of going deeper and deeper into the cavern. So you can land on the different landing pads, and they act as save points, which is quite cool for an early on game, that you're not chucked all the way back to the beginning again. Yeah. And
it's got the fuel as well, hasn't it? It's another Thrust type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. and you just go deeper and deeper into the caverns, and it gets far more trickier, blasting more of the rocks, timing there's big square barriers that move in a set fashion, so you have to time. You can move into that square to move along, and seriously, this is addictive as hell. And to be honest, because I played, people used to always say how difficult Airwolf was on the Specky, right? I would play that through to completion because I played it all the time because that's all I had, you know.
Yeah.
This is far superior to it. This is
next level, isn't it?
This is one of the most definitive sort of helicopter type shooters on in any 8-bits, in my opinion. I think it's wonderful. I like this way better than Choplifter.
Yeah, I it's funny because this is another game you've reintroduced me to, because when I first booted it up, I thought, hang about, this is Airwolf, and then I thought, hang on, let's load up Airwolf just to see whether it's a swap of name. Then I realised that basically the chopper looks very similar in terms of the way it moves, but it's a very, very different game. But you know, I definitely remember playing.
You're meaning
back in the day.
the Atari 8-bit Airwolf, not the Airwolf.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great game. It's bloody hard though, but it's good fun. I don't think I ever got off the first level, to be honest, when I was a kid, because it's rock solid. Like you know, just trying to get yourself down into the first cavern on level 1 is like, you've got those missiles which are real bastards. They follow you, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're very hard to kill. I don't even think you can kill the enemies that fire the rockets. It's all about timing, isn't it? Yeah. It's a cracking little helicopter game. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, reminds me heavily of. Yeah, when I think about it, it reminds me of a very different version of Thrust. If you know,
that's a good.
I'm pretty sure you can understand where I'm coming from that.
Absolutely.
But if you don't like inertia, this is a version of Thrust, say, that you might be able to get on board with.
I think so. Sense? Gravity still pulls you down, but it's very slowly. In
very
comparison.
Subtle, yeah, it's subtle, isn't it?
Very subtle, yeah, indeed. Right, 1983 gave us a very important game. Without this, we would not have had Gauntlet. And it was a 4-player game. One of the few games that utilised
the Dreamcast mode, yeah.
I mean, how spoiled were these Americans? One, their parents bought them a fucking expensive computer, right?
And they had 4 controllers as well.
And no wonder they had 4 mates, right, or 3 mates. You know what I mean? We're going round to that bloke's house. His mum and dad spoil him rotten. We're going round to play there. So, what game are we on about? It's Dandy. The wonderful Dandy, released in 1983 via the Atari Programmer Exchange, which I suppose is kind of a precursor to the almost like the PD scene, I suppose.
Yeah.
At the time. So, do you want to give a little description of what Dandy is all about, mate?
Yeah. So Dandy is now this is a new one to me. Now, I've heard of it for our previous podcast, but never actually played it. But my first impression, obviously playing it for the first time, is that this has got a bit of a Boulder Dash style movement system to it. So, you know, obviously, like you said in the introduction to the game, like, it's got a proto Gauntlet style to it, where you move around a map and enemies, you know, constantly come towards you, and you've got you got a weapon that you can fire, and every time it hits an enemy or hits a wall, then you can fire again. So obviously, if you make a mistake and your weapon's firing off into the distance and the enemies are coming at you, you can take damage. But if you got them in a sort of bottleneck and they just keep coming, your weapon fires as fast as it possibly can, and you take them out, which is an interesting mechanic. It's a nuance of programming, I'd imagine, but probably not a choice. Probably a nuance of programming. Rather than firing like say five or as many weapons as you want. I'd imagine that's possibly a nuance of early programming understanding. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what you think about that. But it's very simplistic. It's you got a very rudimentary map, but like Boulder Dash, it kind of moves. Although Boulder Dash feels like the character Rockford is scrolling, it feels more like he's snapping to the grid. I don't know if you understand what I mean there, Kingy, but
I do. Yep.
Yeah, it very much
moves
like
one square at a time, one tile square at a time.
But it takes the amount of time to move to each square, as if he was scrolling to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a latency involved.
Yeah, it's a very strange sort of, again, probably a programming nuance of back in the day. So essentially, it is Gauntlet, but a proto version of Gauntlet, isn't it? Really, it's probably like, what was, I can't remember that bloody game you and Drisky were talking about now, which was like Bomberman back in the day, an early version of Bomberman.
Yeah, that's Eric and the Floaters.
That's it. Yeah, it's kind of like that in terms of Bomberman, I'd say.
Good analogy. Yeah.
In terms of Gauntlet, it's it's not got the stylistic flair of Gauntlet, but it's got the gameplay elements that basically make Gauntlet what it is, and Alien Breed and whatever else you want to talk about. And you got basically the enemies just have got the similar old pattern of they just follow you. So with that mechanic, you can literally sort of manipulate them.
Yeah.
Say if
like
they're
shepherd.
You shepherd them into a corner of a room they're stuck in. And then because you move faster than them, you zoom around to give yourself the best possible opportunity to sort of take them out in a corridor of your choosing, rather than them harassing you. That sort of thing. So that's the game, Ray. Basically, it's Gauntlet, but let's call it a beta version of Gauntlet, an early concept of Gauntlet. But obviously, it's a game, and it came out, and Gauntlet just took what this did and added the flair and the nuance, the scrolling, etc. Is what I'd call dandy, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Ed Logg admitted that this served as an inspiration for Gauntlet. So that you hear it from the creators themselves. But I never came across this before Gauntlet. I saw Gauntlet first and it blew me away. But to have this on your home computer back at this 1983, you would have been glued to this, playing this. Imagine that with 4 of your mates on the one screen, all moving about, battling the enemies, rushing for treasure. And what I liked about how the health worked on this, I suppose it just works like dropping the coin in the arcade machine in Gauntlet, right? That you can pick up the food and your health goes down, and then you can press a key to use your food in your satchel, so to speak, to replenish your health. So you use it to your discretion, the same as the bombs. And the bombs in the game work exactly like the magic potions in Gauntlet as well. So it really is a good maze-like labyrinth, different hordes coming towards you, all hell-bent on your destruction, and zero slowdown with all that moving about on the screen. I thought that's incredible. And I love Dandy. Now, my first experience of Dandy, there is a version on the other 8-bit computers. I played it on the Spectrum. Very much a different game. You need to check it out if you've never seen Dandy on the Spectrum, by the way. It's not like this. It's a top-down dungeon crawler, but it's far more like, say, Ranorama and stuff like that. But this, I could play this for hours, to be honest. Especially with mates, I would have loved this. And
it would have been banging back in the day to play. Even 2-player, it would have been, it would have been fun. Just like Gauntlet was. It's a very. I mean, for the time, obviously, what was Gauntlet? 85 was Gauntlet?
85, 2 years later, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, you know, I mean, and obviously that was an arcade board, but, you know, this was a really good, like, there's nothing like it. I suppose, you know, like, there's Boulder Dash, which was that 83 or 84, I can't remember Boulder Dash now.
83.
83, it was 83. So maybe even Boulder Dash took some inspiration from it and just took it in a different path, whereas Gauntlet obviously hyped its main mechanics, you know, completely. Boulder Dash probably added the nuances of the boulders falling and stuff like that, but it's very similar in that way, isn't it? I'd say. I suppose with Boulder Dash you can carve your own path through levels as well.
Dash, just thinking, Boulder Dash 84 actually, so it's a year later.
Oh, it's 84. Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. But no, it's good fun. Yeah. And this came with the element of a level editor, so it basically created infinity in the game as well. I mean, you remember, we've all had a few games that came with level editors back in the day, whether it be Kickstart 2, you know, Boulder Dash Construction Kit.
Yeah,
you actually enjoyed. It was an introduction to game design, wasn't it? You know, I mean,
exactly,
you're speaking at the start of the episode about making your own games, but if it wasn't for these games that deliver these, will give you the engine, you just need to design a level. It inspires you into that kind of creativity, and I think it's a great thing at this early period of giving kids the ability to create their own adventure. Yeah,
exactly. You know, any game that sort of gives you that ability is it's just extra, isn't it? You don't expect them to write a map editor into the game, and to do that it just adds so much more. Yeah, like you say, you know, you can produce a level for your mate, and that's probably where a lot of the levels came from. It's just blokes trying to like make a level their mate couldn't complete. You know, get a beat that, you wank. It's like the bloody final Doom levels that got released. You know, complete that, you bastard. You got a pea shooter and like 10 cyber demons coming at you.
Even recent years never changed. If you ever, you know Mario Maker, right? You went online, downloaded the levels. Everyone seemed to have created level 99, right? It's like, come on. Level 3 maybe, but not level 99.
I just that sort of thing harks me back to the days of the shoot 'em up construction kit as well. Yeah, that was. I mean, to release that as just a sort of, you know, here's a tape. Really, all it's got on it is an editor to make games using this sort of engine we've crafted, and there's no real game. Yeah, you got the Outlaws, and I can't remember what other games were on it now, but like, you know. Really, that was a powerful engine. I compared to like the games that were around at the time. You know, you could make a Commando clone and make it probably, you know, or Gunsmoke. You could probably make it very, very similar to like the arcade version on the C64.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes homogenized then because it's using the same engine, right? But realise as you went also in to do some sprite design and sprite work.
That's right.
And that gives kids that ability to learn to work with a very limited, you know, tile
set of tools,
tools, and you know, okay, you want to have an 8x8 sprite. How creative can you be to make something look like what you want to be? You want to look like a commando. You want to make it look like a ninja. You want to make it look like a car or a tank. You know, it's fun just clicking away. And hats off to the games that live on beyond the initial delivery of the core game.
That's what I mean. To be honest, man, it was a little while ago, but like they're still running like competitions on who can create a game using shoot 'em up construction kit, and
why not?
It's crazy, isn't it? Like there's still people still using that tool to make a game for the Amiga or the Commodore 64 or whatnot, and it's really because, you know, they got the added ability now to hack into the code that they produce from the game to add stuff that's not in the engine and stuff like that, don't they? So you get some interesting.
What a time to be alive in that way, if that's your interest.
Yeah, for sure.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
really
for
good.
sure.
Really good. So obviously we're on about Boulder Dash here. So the house of Boulder Dash for Star Software in 1983 they released Flip and Flop. Now this is their answer to Qbert, I would say. But I'm going to tell you a little joke before I go into the game, right? So a guy with 2 left feet goes into a shoe shop and asks for a pair of flip-flops. Anyway, brunch. Well, it was a delayed laugh there, right? So. Right, anyway, shall we move on?
Yes, let's.
You're laughing longer than is necessary now. That's okay.
Oh dear. Sorry, mate.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay, right, so on Flip and Flop, the players navigate sort of maze-like levels, 3D isometric ones, just like on Qbert, that you must flip the colour tiles. And yeah, it requires a bit of strategy, a bit timing, a bit dodging, because after the first few levels, you get the zookeeper that chases after you because you play a kangaroo and a monkey that have escaped from the zoo.
Buggers.
And when you escape from the zoo, you need to flip isometric tiles, apparently, so that's just a going thing. But I think this is wonderful. I think visually it's incredible for the year it came out, and it's highly playable. You know, I do like Qbert as a game. Hard to play. It's great in an arcade game because you do have the diagonal joystick, so the orientation is correct for it. You can't do this on this. It's fine when you're playing it on the kangaroo levels, isn't it? But it alternates. It goes kangaroo, monkey, kangaroo, monkey. Now, the trouble with, and you'll agree with me when you get to the monkey levels, right, is it plays perspective mind fucking with you is the only way to
that's where the problems come from.
Think of the worst Escher drawing.
Escher mindfuck game, yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you know, what I would say about it is you know, like you said, with Qbert, it had that stick with the right angles for, you know, what you were doing. In my mind, the way the controls work is if you press up, you go upright.
Yep, correct.
I think my mind would work better with this game if it went up left. I don't know why. I just for some reason like I think up. I want to go up the screen. I don't want to go right.
This is the trouble with, and it's quite divisive with isometric games. At least on, say, the Spectrum, because we were so poor we couldn't afford joysticks, right? We had to use keyboard. You were able to remap the keys. Therefore, you done it to your choice, your perspective, and how your mind interpreted the isometric game.
Yeah.
But on these ones, you had no choice.
No, exactly.
Yeah, it was fixed. But anyway,
I think with you know, obviously with repeated playing, you'd understand that, you know, when you press up, you're going to go in.
Oh, you screw up a lot though, don't you? And you fall off the edge.
You certainly do.
Plummet.
Yeah, you certainly do. But I think this one sits in that sort of arcade home gaming sphere. If this had, you know, like you say, if this had come out in the arcade, it, you know, with the right peripherals, it would have sat next to Qbert and
absolutely
been fine. You know, it's got some that flip mechanic really is part of the charm of it, because, you know, you're seeing the isometric map from looking up at it.
Right, this is on the monkey view you're on about.
On the monkey view.
Right,
and,
so explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, so like with the kangaroo, you're looking down on the map, and the controls are exactly the same, but because of the perspective shift, it kind of just fucks you in the brain. Does that? And I think that, like I said, like with repeated playing, you'll get it, but like
it took me ages. I had to retrain my brain to look at the perspective. So the monkey is hanging from the underside of the
ceiling,
platform, right? From the ceiling. So you have to tell your brain it's completely upside down, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. Because I was first playing it, it goes, what's going on here? I'm just dying. I'm falling off the edge. I'm dying. Then I sat back. Oh my God, it's upside down. He's hanging from the underside. And then you see it in a complete... But because the level prior to it is from top down and it jumps to the next level upside down, your brain doesn't know from your arsehole from your elbow.
Yeah. I think what doesn't help is that the what they should have done, I think, just to make it a little bit easier on the brain, is the edges of the map should have been brighter than the actual like the actual ceiling, if you get what I mean. Because you kind of see the map as the monkey and it looks the right way up, if that makes sense.
I know. I mean, you'll see the videos if you're on the YouTube version of this, or you're playing it yourself, you'll understand what we're trying to explain, right? But your mind will be screwed with, trust me.
Yeah, it does give you a mind headache. But it's so well put together, and once you get the hang of the controls and you sort of get a rudimentary understanding of what button does what, the first couple of levels, you get quite handy at them, but then they ramp up the difficulty in
quite
a sort
rapidly.
Of Congo bongo style,
yes.
and introduce enemies that chase you around the map, and it turns into a frantic head fuck.
You've no time to think then, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't plot your moves. You just got to press buttons and hope that you don't press the wrong one.
9 times out of 10, it's the latter. but
it's still... a very slick use of the hardware,
yes,
even
visually
if this was
stunning.
even if this was just in the arcade in '83 with these graphics, it wouldn't have been out of place, would it? No. It looks very nice. It does look very nice.
The isometric look looks incredible. It really, I mean, I was dead pleased with playing this game. I mean, obviously there's tiles you can't colour in this game. There's only certain ones you want to, and there's flashing ones if you stand on them, they stun you and freeze you, so you have to avoid them. So there's some more things going on than, say, Qbert. But
I think those flashing tiles give you a bigger bonus, don't they? But when you got the geezer chasing you on the level, you haven't got the time to stand around, have you? Do you know, because he doesn't jump around like in the sort of Pac-Man, like I'll follow you on this path. He jumps all over the gaff.
Oh, he's a shithead. Yeah.
So it is quite tricky, but no, I think it's an addictive. Like if you get into this game, it's addictive as hell because it's got that arcade one more turn sort of quality to it, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Really good game.
Yeah, brilliant.
So finally, what we decided on, and we discussed this at length before going into this episode, and probably where applicable and when we can, I think we'll do this for any system under the 8-bit Underdogs, but where is the system at now? Where is the homebrew support, the after-year service? How good is the scene in 2024? And there's an absolute fantastic game for this that blew me away. We can only play the demo of it because it was physical release on cartridge only. Very beautiful presented box set and that. But there's a demo version of the first couple of levels of the game that anybody can download and play on their systems, on a flash card or on emulator, however you decide to play your Atari games. But the game I'm talking about is the Rescue Expedition. Absolutely blown away by the game's visuals. Another cave game, isn't it, Rick, in that way?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Where you control the main protagonist with a whole array of utilities at your disposal, I suppose is the best way to describe it. So you first start in the first cave and there's quite a terrifying spider thing crawling about the bottom. And you go, right, well, how do I achieve the aims in this level? There's coins to collect, tokens to collect, so to speak. And you can fire your utility belt, a rope, and you can swing across, you can fire guns and all this. So it has some real fascinating physics and mechanics to the game. But visually, how much does this stand out with all the range of hues and the colours right through it's hard to describe, Rick. How would you describe the main tiles in the game? It goes through the rainbow of colours, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does a kind of, what would you say? Like, say if the level was drawn in sort of a 2-colour spectrum fashion. So you've got like black and white pixels for the tile set in the game, which draws the level. But what they're doing to give it an extra bit of style is they're using almost like an Amiga copper gradient.
Yes.
So when your character moves to the top of the level, there's like a gradient running through the middle of the character from right to left or left to right, so to speak, where all the tiles are shown at their brightest white and their darkest dark. But then as you go progressively up, say if you're in the middle of the screen, as you go up the screen, certain tiles start getting darker. So the whites start turning blue or red or whatever the main sort of colour is for that level. So it gives you almost like your character's carrying a torch or a light or of some description. And in the bottom part of the level, say if you're at the top, starts to look a lot more sort of faded out. So you can see the enemies, but they look a lot less contrasted, so it gives you a sort of more atmospheric feel to the game.
Incredible. I was
yeah.
I've
really,
never seen this.
really cool mechanic. Almost like there's an alpha attached to the character, and that anything sort of 10 blocks up from him is like starts to go dark until it gets as dark as it can go. Very cool little look. And one thing I was going to say is that I think through this episode and a little bit before is that there seems to be quite a strong Polish contingent in the Atari 8-bit, because this is a Polish game, isn't it?
Yeah,
I believe. And just one thing I was meant to mention before we got cracked on with the series, this episode, is that I know that Retro... I can't remember the bloody name. The guys who did the Amiga Mini and the C64 Mini and stuff. I can't think what their company's bloody
I don't know their name,
but the guys who made those machines, they're doing an Atari 8-bit machine.
That's right.
As their next project. But on the sidelines, that a company that's probably not been heard about so much is a company called Revive Machines. And they're doing something that looks vastly better than what the guys did the Amiga Mini and stuff. It's Revive Machines are doing the RM 800XL, which is pretty much a tit for tat replication of the Atari 800XL, but So essentially, you can, if you've got your cartridges or your joysticks, you can plug them in and play them as they would have worked on the Atari 800 XL.
Yeah.
But you've also got USB ports on it. It's got all the ports basically from the original machine with some added extra ports. So it's got HDMI, etc., etc. That's revive-machines.com, and I've had this on my radar for a little while now. It's got
you'll buy into this?
I'm thinking about it because it looks really well put together. It's a Polish company, and it just seems that the Polish scene for this machine is quite passionate.
Yeah, it's a bit like the French for the Amstrad.
Or the Amstrad, yeah, exactly. Because I know the Poles did take to the Amiga, but it was probably later on. Maybe because of the communist blocks thing and whatnot, I don't know. But the Atari is well loved in Poland, and it's got everything. It's got a cartridge slot, it's got the USB ports, they've got the peripheral SIO, they've got the parallel bus on it, they've got the monitor D sub connector, the DIN, the DIN pin, circular pin, the HDMI. There's an SD card, and they're using the USB-C for the power and everything else. It looks like a really nice replication of the old Atari machine. So, don't know about the price and whatnot, but it's something I'm going to look into because I have been itching to buy an Atari 800 XL, but these days, with the sort of aging hardware and
I
the
think this is a viable thing to buy, the way you're selling it here.
If it's got the old connectors, so you can connect it to a CRT if you wish, that speaks to me because like HDMI is great for,
casual approach to it, I suppose.
Yeah. But if you want to plug a C64 Mini into an old TV, I don't think you can do it because it's only got the HDMI, and the same with the Amiga. It's like, great, okay, but like I don't want downscaled sort of. What I'm trying to say is I don't want an image sort of upscaled roughly to a HDMI 1080p output because you don't get the proper experience. If that makes sense. You end up
I've
with
got my
massive
Spectrum
borders
next,
and blah de blah.
Yeah, it's the same. But at least I've got I can plug it into SCART as well as HDMI.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
When you plug it into the TV, it is. I mean, there are problems with it because obviously there's going to be problems. It was never designed for that. I mean, great that such a thing exists. Not everyone can have a CRT at home, even a small portable. I mean, mine's just lying on the floor. I don't have the space for it. I'm going through anxiety. I really need a place for it to play my main 8-bit computers, but because I got the arcade cab, that's it. I had to give up that corner of the room for that, which is a far more important thing for me. I weighed it up, but it's like, the dilemmas, and so I get what you're saying.
Yeah, just for me, I'm a stickler for the sort of authentic experience, and even with MAME, I always try to make my games look like the CRT is running on a CRT, and you can never quite get where you want because once you start introducing scan lines, that you lose the picture definition because it goes darker and all that sort of lark. So like it's great that you can try and recreate the CRT, but you never will recreate it. No. And one of my biggest problems with sort of upscaling old games is that you start getting that shimmering effect where your pixels aren't quite square and they're slightly off, and then pixels start like wobbling and stuff, and it just irritates the hell out of me. But at the end of the day, it's down to your personal preference. If you don't really care and you're more interested in the games, doesn't matter. But I just feel like having both, like the Raspberry Pi, you can composite the Raspberry Pi, which does help, but it's not a RGB. But then again, I wouldn't have had RGB back in the 80s. I'd have had an RF bloody signal. But it is what it is. But I guess that's just like something I kind of try to strive for when I'm playing a system. I'd like to try and get it as close to the way the pixels would have looked back in the day.
Sure.
I like them to be that way, if you get what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Absolutely.
But sorry, mate, but we sort of hijacked this game because
we're not going to go into great depths. It's just more pointing to where the scene is at.
Yeah.
And we're getting something that not only looks outlandish for what you thought was the Atari was capable of.
Well, it's definitely doing more than 4 colours per screen, isn't it? It's doing a lot, really.
It is. And the game, the whole mechanics of the game, swinging on the rope, the
it's kind of doing a what would you call it? I'd say I always like to make sort of amalgamations of things of what it's trying, what it's sort of aping, and the best way to describe this game is it's kind of doing like a kind of Batman with the rope mechanic.
Yeah,
I suppose you could say Pitfall as well, but like Batman sort of shoots his rope, doesn't he? And you climb up like the old Ocean game. It's doing that mechanic in terms of like scaling the level, but then the sort of combat mechanics are kind of Castlevania, aren't they? With the whip. I know you do get some different weapons and stuff, but and then there's a bit of impossible mission in there as well with the progression of the levels and stuff. It's a really, I mean, to be honest, the actual main character almost looks a bit ray traced as well. Like he really stands out from the background. He looks very interesting.
He's golden and glowy, almost Tron-like, if you want.
Yeah.
It's not just a visual splendor. The whole mechanics of the game is absolutely fun to play. It isn't just your average action platformer. To go through the menus of your different weapons, your whip, your gun, the swinging rope. It just has a fresh approach to it because people's attitudes have changed towards games.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got modern concessions of visions of people of how games are now, but how do we cram this into old technology? Yeah. And that's what you've got here, and it's wonderful to play. And it's great to see the scene still alive, that any single computer that was a thing back in the past, someone had love for it. It was their system. And there you go. There's a whole subculture of people into it yet, and still prescribing us games. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's great, mate. Yeah, I like this sort of period now in terms of stuff being made for the old machines is it's a really good period because there's so many more development tools around for these guys now who can maybe they weren't great programmers, but like because they got these tools that make things easier, they can overcome their own limitations and they can produce the vision they got in their head for what they want from the system, and they learn the limitations and they think, well, how can I break that? How can I, I've seen these guys producing, like the artifacting. How can I make the Atari display more colors in a way that gives it some atmosphere, some modern connotations? And this game does it really well with that sort of, almost Copper Bright-esque sort of Amiga style palette swapping or whatever it's doing. I don't know what they're doing to make this game look as atmospheric as it does, but it works. It's blocks of colors gradienting up the screen and shifting depending where your character is on the Z-axis. Yeah, and it's really well done.
It's a shame that, well, from what I can see, you can't seem to buy it digitally. It was only that point where the physical release existed, and that's it. And that's a shame because the demo exists, and okay, the Kickstarter's ended, and people have all bought. The people who will buy the physical have all bought it now. So why not release it digitally? And even if it was a $5, right? I'll get, because I'd pay money for the full version of this and play it all the way through.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but you do get that. You get very much limited releases still exist, and it's the only thing I think is, I get it for the initial period. That's like, it's almost the equivalent of cinema release before straight. Then, unless you were Steven Seagal and it was straight to VHS, So no, let's give everyone the chance to play it and release it fully. I would love that.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe they will. Maybe
see in
they've got
time.
some cartridges they haven't sold yet. Maybe once they've sold out, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe there's something like that going on. But
A few years ago
yeah,
now, but well,
yeah. Well, what was it? 2019, wasn't it? It came out. Was it
yeah. So
2019?
yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, it'd be nice to see more things come out like this for the system. It's
Yeah.
it's a really good little system, and it's been fun to sort of go through the games that we maybe missed with the other episodes we've done. I mean, there's still a few more.
Of course.
I mean, have you got? I suppose is there any more you want to say, or shall
No,
we?
enough on that. So if there's any shout outs,
Any shout outs? See, the problem is I've got a few, but I can't remember what they're bloody called. And I couldn't find them because like you type a description in, you can't. I suppose one of the ones I would say I've got a lot of nostalgia for is Submarine Command. Now, I'm pretty sure a few listeners would have played the old Silent Service.
yeah.
Which was a cracking submarine game, wasn't it? But Submarine Command has got a more basic look to it, but it's got more atmospheric effects. Like when you get sunk, the water rises up the screen to sort of, basically say, yeah, you're dead. And it really feels like, you're swanning around in the ocean, like trying to find the things to kill. And then when you get sunk, you actually do get sunk proper, and you feel it. I remember it was a game me and my old man used to play back in the day, and it was it's a different take on the submarine game. It's probably one that maybe people haven't played or heard of, but at least give it a look on YouTube. Submarine Command. It was a really good, fun game back in the day. How about yourself, mate? Have you got a shout out or mention?
I suppose for me, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, would be Caverns of Mars. Quite like that.
Oh yeah.
So you obviously got the spaceship coming down and trying to have, it's a left and right dodge, not hit the walls kind of shooter. There's been many games like that, but I always remember that. And Dimension
I
X.
played that back in the day. I've not played Dimension X, I don't think.
No, it's kind of a Trailblazer looking shoot 'em up. So you think of Battlezone meets Trailblazer. It really shows the visual.
Balls or whatever. What's that game? It's a Space Harrier looking game, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, good. There's good sort of intersecting sub levels after the main sort of chessboard grid. Shoot 'em up there.
Oh,
there's
I see.
there's tunnel levels to fly through and that. So it was always visually. It felt quite fast. It was like, I suppose, the trench run in Star Wars. Its own interpretation of it. Dodge the barriers that are coming your way, and things like that. So to be honest, there's an infinity of it. Even games you're familiar with, games that you perhaps played on other computers. My fun part is, okay, I played that on the Commodore. Okay, I played that in the Spectrum. But what does the Atari version look like?
Yeah,
I'm always excited about that. So it's about giving the system some love, mate.
Yeah, well, like another one that I used to play a lot was Blue Max.
Yeah, Blue Max is fantastic.
Isometric, kind of different on the C64, but very interesting game. Like we did mention, I think it was in the Atari episode, I introduced you to New York City.
That's right.
Which you really enjoyed, I believe, if I remember correctly. You dug that one. That sort of, what do you want to call it? Like a Grand Theft Auto, perpetual sort of
Brilliant
city.
game.
When we loved Kickstart because it was a 2-player bike type game. We also liked Action Biker. Clumsy Colin or whatever it was called. Do you remember Action Biker? Yeah. Where you've literally got this map, and from my memories, it wasn't really a game where you had to do anything specific, but you had like these courses and things you could just try and complete.
See, I was envious of the other versions. The Spectrum version was completely different, right? Yeah. And I know this is Steve from Retro Asylum's most favourite game on the Commodore.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The isometric driving about, that theme tune right? And then there was roller coaster bits, and there was I was envious of. Honestly, I love that game on both. Well, it was mainly the Commodore I played it on, but it's the same on.
Yeah, Atari, yeah, same game, bro. Pretty much the same game from what I can remember. But it was cool trying to, didn't play it a lot, but it was a game I did keep loading up and trying to do the courses that were around on the map, and it was a great game for that. I'm just trying to think. I think I've got Star Raiders as well. And Star Raiders 2, they were great games. Sort of Star Trek-esque or Star Wars sort of games, weren't they?
But if anybody's saying, you've missed out like Spy v Spy and Montezuma's Revenge, well, you need to listen to the previous
Best
episodes,
of,
we did, as we said earlier at the beginning, we did hit the big hitter, so we're kind of more
I think I mentioned deeper. Spy versus Spy, didn't I, on the best game of 86 or 7, I can't remember now. But like we did mention Montezuma's, didn't we, and whatnot on the Atari episode back in a couple of years ago now, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah, it's gone back.
We had, what was that Rainbow game? I can't remember that bloody Rainbow game. Rainbow Walker, that was another cracking game, wasn't it? There are some, Bruce Lee is another cracking game on the system. Yeah. We mentioned that one before in the beat 'em up episode. There's so many great games on the system.
We just didn't want to repeat ourselves, did we?
No, there's no point, is there? I think it's like any of the micros. There's thousands of games, and there's gems that we've probably never even heard of or played. Even that we could probably stumble across one day, and But I think we've, like we said with the previous episode on the Atari, you got, I think the 8-Bit Memories episode, we had Alley Cat, didn't we? Which was one of my childhood favourites.
Yeah. That was a new one to me at the time.
Yeah, you really enjoyed that one, didn't you? Yeah. It's one of them games where you think, it's just like the sort of single screen arcade thing, and then you start jumping through the windows, there's mini games and stuff. A great little computer, the Atari 800 XL it was, or the 8-bit, the 400, etc. But yeah, well, there we go, mate.
So there we go, we've done it. And thank you for, it was good to see you for starters. It's been a little while since we've done an episode together.
Yeah,
and
for sure,
it was a good one to return to be honest. I've had an absolute blast playing these games. Absolute blast.
They're
seriously had good fun, smiled on my face all the way through playing them, and I'll continue to go back to these ones. So, thanks for joining me in this, mate. And as we said, there's a continuing series, so this is one of many. We'll come with another Underdog in the near future.
Yeah, for sure. Any ideas on what you'd like to hit next?
I don't want to spoil it, but I've got some really obscure ones. Really obscure ones for the next one. But listen, I want to do things like the Dragon 32.
Yeah.
And obviously, I kind of took the piss of the VIC-20, but it needs to be covered. And
because to be honest, I don't know any VIC-20 games. I don't know much about the system at all, apart from what palette it used. Just from the Vice emulator, but
yeah. Well, we're not wanting to come from a position of information and authority on these ones. What we want to do is share the love, try some games, and go, well, actually, why aren't we playing this system? We just want to shine some light on lesser spoken about systems. They're not lesser systems, because that's not fair. It's just that they weren't the computer of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
So exactly. Until then, no.
Keep it retro.
Yeah, keep it retro. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we shall see you on the very next episode. Take care. Bye.
Cheers, guys.